everybody? It's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. Hope everybody's having a great week, man. We're in the middle of the week. Hopefully you've gotten everything going and things are flowing the way you want them to flow. But remember what I always say, even if it's not going the way you're going, if you're still breathing, you're still in the fight. Just always remember that. If you're still breathing, you're still in a good place, because there's no place you can be and you be alive that you can't come back from. Always remember that. All right, look, you know the routine. Click the like button, click the share button if it's something that you really think is prevalent, something you enjoy, something you want to share. Do all of that good stuff and subscribe. Now check this out. Myself as an individual and the organization that I founded and run, the Odyssey Project, has been doing work in the community now for over 30 years. If you follow me, you know the work. Black Men Lead Rite of Passage Initiative, advocating for kids in schools, advocating for young black males, disproportionality and special education referrals, advocating for abused and battered women, advocating for mental health of black men, fighting and still pushing and doing those things, doing the research, doing the program development, doing the papers that prove up what I'm saying. I've been doing it for years. Generational trauma, epigenetics, all of that. If you believe in that work, that work needs support. So look in the description box and see how you can give. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you real briefly. Because I always see this whenever there is a black politician or a black celebrity that comes under fire, and blacks respond based off of what they're being given. They respond negatively, meaning that they, for all intents and purposes, for lack of a better term, turn on said person who previously is probably extremely popular and liked, or in some cases even loved, and they turn. That's this common thing that we love to tear black people down. We love to tear other black people down. And you know, there are even sometimes other celebrities that come out and say that we're not, you know, on code. And then there are some that'll come out and say, you know, white people wouldn't do this, they're not on code. Let me explain something to you. We are really truly confused, and it's not by accident. We are really truly confused what pro-blackness is. Pro-blackness in its very, very essence is the support of anything that elevates and uplifts the black culture, the black race, and the black community as a whole. It's not an individual isolation of people we like or that are popular or that quote unquote are in some way revered as extremely successful. If their success can't be read and felt and literally embodied within the entire black community, that's not pro-blackness, that's self-preservation. And every person's got a right to go out there and get it. They got a right to go out there and get it and do what they want to with it. But them being black and successful doesn't mean that they're pro-black, and supporting them doesn't mean you're pro-black. If you're black, there are a bunch of black faces in high places that were propped up by non-blacks to misdirect, mislead, mishandle, and buffer the black community so that things that are being done aren't perceived in the true light that they're being done and the intent in which it's being done. And this has been done for years. The thing is never to expect someone first and foremost to be perfect. So when they do show their imperfections, you're not blown away and fall off your rocker and go on an all-out assault. I get that. No. Every black person that falls or stumbles, because we all have or we all will, doesn't deserve you to go out on all-out assault. However, if the behavior that they are exuding or have exuded or has caused harm to other blacks, if you can see how their behavior, not just in direct impact, meaning who they did it to, but in the entire impact of how it's perceived, produced, and impacts us, because there are going to be those who are going to take this and make it, this is what black people type do thing. That's a black eye on the black community. You have to be willing to sit up and say, okay, are these people that I'm being asked to defend at all costs, are they really truly pro-black, or are they just black? That's the difference. Pro-blackness means that you're supporting something that elevates and uplifts the black community as a whole, not just an individual, but the black community as a whole. So buying from a black business that does not pour back into the black community isn't pro-black. It's simply promoting or supporting a black business owner. Pro-blackness is about the elevation and empowerment of the entire collective in some way, or a large spectrum of the collective in some way. When we look at what's going on with Diddy, which is what this is about this time, but I've seen it with a number of other people, that there's this expectation that we, without question, fall in line and support people who are exuding behavior that we should deem unacceptable, and especially when that behavior is being exuded predominantly against people who look like us. So they are victimizing people, and the people they're victimizing look like us. And this doesn't mean you go out and say, hey, it's cool to go victimize anybody else, but you definitely don't victimize your own. What it says when you see somebody doing that is that they're very self-consumed, that they're very egocentric, that they are maybe even narcissistic, and that everything is about them, and they will do what they have to do to make sure they get what they want. And sometimes that's elevating people, blessing people, giving them contracts, giving them opportunities, but it's all about the edification of them, the elevation of them, how it puts them. And when it doesn't serve them well, they'll screw over the very people that put them in the, that help build what they're experiencing and enjoying. My whole thing is, there are a lot of people like myself in varying degrees who are judging this whole Diddy thing based off of a conglomerate of cumulative presentation and observation of facts over years, and with some of us decades, since the 90s, of things that have been out there. And you don't have to be directly involved, but you're anywhere close. You know how the community, black community, works. Somebody knows somebody, and that somebody is going to know somebody who is connected. It always is. The 6 degrees of separation is extremely intense and overemphasized within the black community. I promise you, if you actually get out there and start moving around, you'll find out you are a couple of phone calls away from knowing anybody you need to know in the black community to make things happen. But anyway, for those who have been around it, whether it's in the modeling industry, in the recording industry, in athletics or whatever, and you've been around, and because everybody knows everybody. The athletes know the entertainers know the business people, and there's a circle, and everybody hangs around, knows around, has some connection to somebody. If you have been around that world, you have heard plenty. And if you haven't, you've heard the allegations. Now, one allegation, you can chalk that up. Somebody's angry, somebody's pissed off, and they're just trying to fight back. 2 allegations, somebody's just trying to get paid. 3 allegations, he probably needs to stop hanging around certain people. 15 allegations and higher, there's a pattern. There's a pattern that says there's something questionable that you just cannot explain away by it being somebody else's fault. When you get that deep to where you've created a pattern of doing things that don't speak well of you, and it's consistent enough that everybody has some idea that you're doing it, I mean everybody, then there's a problem. And the problem is nobody pulls anybody's coattail, especially someone who was worth hundreds of millions and expected to be somewhere close to $1 billion now. Nobody pulls the coattail. Why? Because nobody wants to kill the golden goose. Nobody wants to be the person that says to the person who may be the reason they're eating, hey, what you're doing is BS. Nobody pull Robert Kelly's coattail and say, hey man, I love you, we need to reel you in. And probably if they would have pulled his coattail, they would probably be right, that he would probably push them away, because it would be 100 other people that would be willing to step into their position and actually co-sign and his BS and yes man it. And again, I am a huge R. Kelly fan. At least 4 of my kids, probably 5, were conceived off of R. Kelly's music. Absolute fan. But and what I hate is now this cat with all this genius is behind the bars, which probably could have been stopped if somebody would have dealt with him years ago before it got out of hand and say, hey man, I love you, let's not do this. And again, R. Kelly is not Diddy. R. Kelly had a sickness and nobody helped him deal with it. Nobody cared about it because everybody was eating off of him, so everybody just fed the illness. Diddy is on the dark side. And, you know, I'm not one to just go after a brother. You know, if I go after you're Steve Harvey, somebody like that I just consider to be a total sellout. Diddy is about Diddy. And a lot of the things that could be perceived as almost truth without having total evidence, Kim Porter, the guy that just disappeared out of the bathroom that was shot in the studio in Los Angeles, Biggie, Pac, and it goes on. Bodies dropping, cars being blown up in driveways, all this stuff like this, and everybody knows the guy's doing it, but nobody wants to talk because, number one, nobody wants the money train to stop, and number 2, nobody wants to be the next person who gets disappeared. So all these things are going, but all of a sudden Kim starts saying, hey, look, I got this, and she ends up dead. Cassie ends up with the very computer and cell phone that's supposed to hold all this information, and now this stuff is getting leaked, and this is where all these investigations are coming from. Kim Porter had all this information. The 2 women that were with him the longest, the 2 women that knew him most intimately, are the 2 people that ultimately will probably be responsible for his demise. And some of the things that he reportedly took them through is absolutely scary. And again, I'm not about saying a person has to be perfect, because I'm not perfect. I have a past. I have things that I wish I could take back in my life. But I think that I've developed a pattern over the years that shows I love my people. I absolutely love black women. And that my goal is to be as good to our women and as empowering and as enlightening to our men as I possibly can. And if I make a mistake, you will see me acknowledge my mistake and do the best I can never to make that same mistake again. And that's all I can ask of anyone else. This isn't what this is about. People who are calling out Diddy are calling out years and years and years of transgressions and saying enough is enough, and we can't ride with you no more. We can't ride with you with what we're hearing and what we're seeing. And if we're actually talking about, and again, this is allegation, but when it's so much going on, if we're really talking about sex trafficking, I definitely can't get on with that. I've been battling that for years, even with me and Mary and not being married again. We still have the same passion when it comes to that. And that right there, and you got to think, human trafficking is the 2nd largest industry in the world behind weapons trafficking. It's bigger than the dope game. And anybody who's participating in that, anybody who's partaking in that and bringing harm to anybody, but especially your own, there's absolutely no sympathy from me as far as that goes. And whatever happens, happens. Because we literally are in a situation where we have 70,000 black women missing, unaccounted for in this country. A large majority of that is trafficking. and sex trafficking and human trafficking, and we cannot afford to have our own people being a part of it, but they are. They're a big part of these rings. And I don't know to what extent this is happening, but obviously if they're hitting multiple houses in multiple states, it's not because they just heard something on a phone call. By the time they hit the house, they're looking to confirm what they already know, or to gather something that's they've gathered information should be in one of those houses. My whole thing is, we are a people that have gone through so much, and I've written on this, I've lectured on this, I've put it in books, I've done conferences and symposiums on it. I have a series that I'm doing with the Harris County Sheriff's Office on adverse childhood experiences and generational trauma, and the ways that we need to work with young black males who are being released in a reentry program, doing that right now. And we've been through a lot. We cannot possibly rise if we have an internal toxic cancer of any type flowing in there. You've heard me say this many times, that the enemy on the inside, if there's no enemy on the inside, the enemy on the outside can do us no harm. It's an African proverb. That's so true. If there's no enemy on the inside, we then have the ability to focus on the external and exogenous forces that are moving against us, and we can at that point, with collective energy, with wholeness, with clarity of mind and thought, with absence of influence and hypervigilance and other issues that come along with trauma, be able to observe that which is in front of us and say, this is what we need to do, and to develop the agendas and protocols that respond to those said issues and egregious encroachments upon our freedoms, our liberties, our ability and desires to do the things that we should be given the right and the space to do. So again, I say that we can no longer be confused about what pro-blackness is. And I hope that I leave that with you. Again, if you like the content, click the like button, click the share button, and subscribe. If you believe in the work that I've done over the last 30 years, we need you to show some love and show some support and give. On that note, look, I'm out of here. Thank you guys for giving me your time, and you have an unbelievable remainder of your day. I'm out.